Hello, I'm Davina, and hello to all of you bold, beautiful, highly evolved souls. Did I miss brilliant, brilliant? And today's topic is going to be the narcissist shame rage. And this is a term I heard a little while ago, and I kind of dug a little bit deeper into it. And I came across a website, which is narcissistbehavior.net. That's narcissistbehavior.net. And this woman, I feel like, has got a really good understanding, a really, more comprehensive, like she's a psychologist. So it's very clearly written and, comes from her clinical experience and everything. Her name is Christine Lewis de Cannonville. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but yeah, she has written some really good blog posts on that website. So I definitely highly recommend checking it out. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the shame rage that the narcissists have. And this is going to be kind of paraphrasing her stuff. So this is not, I just wanted to like kind of, yeah, it's just like, the rage, I just have a better understanding of this rage rage doesn't necessarily have to be like really like screaming or like that doesn't have to be like that. Rage can just be like it can be seem subtle, but it's a very strong, I think the strength of that anger. And what I came across in this article that was interesting is that rage is actually a primitive emotion. It's something that we feel as a child when our needs are being unmet. And this is also why we, as narcissist abuse survivors, also feel rage at our parents for not meeting our needs. So it's a rage. It's a sometimes I like the word infuriated. So yeah, it's a fury, rage. It's really a very strong feeling that a child has. And now that I think about this, like I think of the toddlers that I take care of, and I'm like, yeah, like when I see them, like it's this really strong anger that they feel, even if you think, well, it's just a small thing, I'm not bringing your milk, and they're like, and I shouldn't laugh at that because to them, it is that strong of a feeling. It is that like, kind of powerful anger. And that's, I think, probably, I'm guessing it's kind of wired into us so that we can survive, so that if our need isn't being met, that we're going to get that angry that our parents are going to, do something about it. That's my guess. I don't know that for sure. So this rage that comes up for narcissists, the first reaction is actually what they have is shame. And to kind of cover up and to avoid that feeling of shame, they then, inflict the rage onto their victim, onto that person who was like, if you're a child, you're not like intentionally, provoking them or making them angry. It could be the smallest thing. Just crying. That's going to invoke their rage because they feel shame. That brings up I feel, I don't like my own vulnerability. I'm noticing now my weaknesses. It's like, it's kind of a mirror for them. And, so that triggers their rage. And then they'll of course blame it on the victim and try to, they'll put that shame onto that person, whoever triggered their own shame, if that makes all that sense. So yeah, it's just sort of becoming more clear to me. So and narcissists, of course, they're trying to protect their self-image, their fragile egos all the time. And this is also what I read in this article, that it's kind of they're always like, their mind is like probably really chaotic, and trying to maintain this sense of like superiority and like I'm perfect and I'm not flawed at all. That can be, I like I understand that actually as a, you know, because pain can be, or shame can be just so incredibly painful, and the narcissist cannot tolerate it. They cannot tolerate it. And so they must, you know, shoot it out or whatever, like at a victim. And by watching that victim suffering and seeing them as, you know, worthless, that eases, I imagine, the tension in them, and they're able to like, okay, I'm not the worthless one. That person's the worthless one. They're the defective one. They're the inadequate. They're weak. It's not me. So they're able to like project that outwards. And another interesting thing that I read on this article was that anger normally goes in 7 stages. It goes from stress to anxiety, agitation, irritation, frustration, anger, and then rage. Interesting. But for the narcissist, there is no little stages. It's just like trigger and then rage, right? Um, and again, we can probably understand this from our own recovery. If, you know, something triggers you and you're not just like mildly annoyed, you're like, infuriated. I know that's happened for me anyway. So I imagine the narcissist is sort of in that same, that kind of, very childhood state. And that they never grew out of, that kind of maybe 1 or 2, 3-year-old probably emotional state. So they immediately go into this rage. And as I said, the rage is not necessarily really, over the top, screaming or anything. It could just be like like, what's that scowl on your face? You're talking to your child, or what's this bad behavior? The energy behind it is one of just, not just, a little frustration. I feel frustration sometimes when I'm taking care of kids. That's natural, but to like go into a rage because your child is like crying or upset, or because they dropped some food on the floor, is obviously way out of proportion, to what's the situation. So yeah, basically that narcissist goes from 0 to rage in like, 2 seconds. Yeah, basically, so it's anything that's threatening that self-image that, that they have built up in their head as a, this false self that's perfect, because it's the opposite of what they actually feel, which is a whole bunch of shame. So this false self is like this sort of the cover up for that, the loathsome self that they don't want to face. So anything that threatens that is going to bring up that shame, that first of all, the initial shame reaction, and then the rage. And another thing I read in this article is that this rage can be like, as I said, the explosive type, where it's like, blah, and they're like yelling or screaming or swearing, they've really, like lost their shit kind of thing. Or it can be a more, passive aggressive, where maybe they're giving this silent treatment, or they're, just not responding to you, or, dismissing your feelings. I think these are a little bit more passive aggressive kind of actions. And yeah, and again, like this can be triggered by, the smallest of things. And I think, when I think back now, my ex-husband, and now this is all kind of making sense to me too, like, it was when we moved from Japan to Canada, and he's Japanese, that he started to lose it, that he was so triggered, and shame started to like just take over. And he was in these rages, and yeah, he would be like demanding something of me. And, if I didn't want to do it, he would like, like be throwing bowls of noodles at the wall, or like smashing a printer, or, so it was a horrible and terrifying time. And even if the narcissist is not being violent, like physically violent, for a child to be in that space, in that house with these a parent or two parents who are narcissistic, or some other caregiver. It's terror. It's terror all the time, every day, because you don't know when that shame rage is going to be triggered. And you learn probably early on that, even if you cry, that it's going to trigger your mother's rage. She's going to get angry at you for being upset. She's going to get angry at you for showing your frustration, or your sadness, or whatever. Um, and yeah, so it's like, I just kind of lost that a minute, because I think I just brought up like just a sense of like seeing my mother in that, you know. Yeah, so anyway, the terror is constant, because you're always like thinking, they might be nice for a short time, but I think I've said in other videos, it's like, it's very, they seem to be caring for a short period of time. Maybe they're reading you a book, maybe you're kind of even having a little bit of an enjoyable time, or you think it's enjoyable. It's not really enjoyable, because again, this underlying terror is always there, because the narcissist could lose it any second. You could do the smallest of things, and they can just, so shame comes up, and then rage, and it's out at you. And yeah, I mean, I've seen this in action. One scene that really comes back to me is, I was coming back to the house with the girl that I'm taking care of, and she's about 3 or so at this time, and we roll up the stroller, and the mother comes out the door, and this girl was upset, and she suddenly threw her muffin on the ground, and the mother immediately was like, yeah, like really, like, scary. It was scary for me. She's like, what's this bad behavior? Why are you throwing your muffin on the ground? And it's like, whoa, like, that's terrifying for a child. And when you have a parent like that, and you don't know moment to moment when they're going to lose it, it's scary, it's terrifying. And you don't know also if you're going to be, they're constantly kind of showing you that they're rejecting you, um, that's, you're not okay, you're being bad, you're a troublemaker, or, so it is absolutely terror to be in this. I just, like, more and more these like layers of denial just peel off, and it's slow, it comes off, little bit by little bit. The denial peels off, and you can start to see just how really terrible it was. I know for like 2.5 years I've been saying, my parents are narcissists, my parents are narcissists, but it's like, it's now at a deeper level where I'm like, my parents were narcissists, and this is a serious disorder. I think there's so much floating around on YouTube and everywhere else, narcissism, and it's kind of getting, to me, a little bit desensitized, like, but this is like, this is next to like a psychopath, really, a person who has no empathy, no remorse. I think the only difference is that the psychopath can be more violent. I think that's the only difference. You can check that out. As I said, I'm not an expert on this, but I just wanted to end that with, like, just how serious this is, because then the more we realize just how horrible it was, the more we can relieve our shame and know that that wasn't us, and that we did not deserve that treatment. So that's what I wanted to say today. And yeah, I am wishing you so many blessings on your journey of healing and awakening. And I am Davina at Wellness Blooming, and thank you for watching.